Welcome everybody to the first ever Student Motorsport Podcast. My name is James. I'm going to be your host for this evening, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Mr. JP Latham, who is the big boss man, the founder of Student Motorsport. Give us a wave, JP.
Good evening.
We've got Mr. Andy Lloyd, who is our Student Motorsport PR and media representative. So Andy, pleasure to have you here tonight.
Good evening. Hi. Nice to be involved this evening.
Thank you very much. And our very special guest is Wilde, who is the head of automotive motorsport, automotive tutor from the West Suffolk College, which is a very relevant place, as we'll soon find out today. So Leon, thank you very much for joining us.
Hello, thank you.
Good. So the topic really that we're going to be covering today is all around the Student Motorsport Challenge. For those of you who don't know what the Student Motorsport Challenge is, it's going to be an opportunity for colleges and UK universities to get involved in UK motorsport at an affordable entry level, and really kind of helps these institutions set up teams for the first time and compete with others in a very fast growing series as part of the CityCar Cup. And just gives them an opportunity really to be, to experience motorsport in the real world rather than just the kind of what goes on behind closed doors. So JP, I guess coming to you first, do you want to tell us a little bit more about the series and critically, why you thought it was super important for Student Motorsport to create a series within that to promote the values that we feel so strongly about?
Yeah, thank you for that. So I could describe it in a lot of different ways, really, why the series exists, why I put it together. But, the top and tail of it really is it's been born out of an idea that spanned from personal experience. So I was a student in motorsport. I've taught motor racing for a number of years, and obviously since I've graduated, worked in the industry for a number of years, nearly 20 years now. So I've had a lot of experiences, and really that's why Student Motorsport exists as well, from all those collective experiences. But I wanted to create a motor racing series, but for the life of me, it hasn't existed before. As far as I can tell, there hasn't been a student championship, a motor racing series that exists just for the purpose of educators to take part in. And as you said at the start, it needs to be something that's sustainable, something that's economical, can be embedded into lectures easy, and can complement, not replace what tutors are doing, but to enrich, enhance learning, a bolt-on, if you would.
It's like an enablement tool, almost.
Yeah, and something that covers the wide, the depth, the width and breadth of motorsport, as I call it, certainly from a racing aspect. It might not be mechanics that they want to do, it might be a range of things.
In a nutshell, just so our listeners get a feel for what this is all about, it's about buying a road car, presumably, and then ultimately converting that road car into a race car that's obviously very strictly governed in regulations and safety and things like that, and then go racing, I guess, with that car at the end of it.
So the concept was something that I wasn't going to really tackle for a couple of years until, Student Motorsport was even more established. But, and everybody knows that COVID hit, work experience packages stopped, events stopped, we couldn't go racing. So it was an opportunity to take then to develop this itch and scratch that itch, develop that idea, which was to pull educators together so they could not only compete and benchmark themselves against other colleges and universities and help each other, but it was an opportunity to have them race against the public as well in something that's sustainable and affordable. And the key thing was, and you'll remember this, James, is we were in conversations with various different organisations in motorsport and racing series and organisers. And at this time that we looked to do something, the CityCar Cup came out, and we liked how professional and well set up that was done, how well that was done. And because of their ethos of getting, let's say, average Joe, somebody who's not well versed in motorsport, into motor racing, it kind of lended itself to our idea of giving equal opportunities or better access to colleges and universities who do motorsport. Not all colleges have a great deal of budget. Not all of them are participating in motorsport. So it's giving them an access. So that really well aligned with them. And that's really why we chose to go down the CityCar Cup route.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. As someone who's personally invested in a city car to go racing in, you are really able to do the whole process start to finish at a budget that the majority of racing tends to stop you from getting involved with. Leon, I'm going to come to you in a second from from an institution point of view as to what the sort of attraction for you and your students was. Before I do that though, Andy, just on the whole, JP mentioned there the CityCar Cup launching as a series, and that's gone from strength to strength. We've seen the Enduro KA series over the last couple of years go from strength to strength, and then we've seen obviously the C1 the C1 Cup, that the endurance series, which kind of started a good few years ago now, which was enjoying max grids of 50 to 100 cars over the last few years. From your experience on sort of reporting and being involved in that side of motorsport, is that's certainly the trend, I think, is trying to make motorsport more more affordable for people. And what are you seeing from people who are enjoying this sort of motorsport? Is it do you think it's going to continue in the direction that it's gone so far?
Oh, without a doubt. There's been a huge groundswell of interest in entry-level motorsport. I think a lot of enthusiasts who look at the more expensive levels of motorsport in endurance racing think, wow, I'd love to go out and race a GT3 car for 6 hours, but it's not going to be financially viable. You can have almost just as much fun racing a C1 or a small car, as long as the grids are on a level playing field, which is exactly what these series are designed to be. It doesn't matter whether you're going at 50 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour, or 150 miles an hour. The racing is still competitive, and I think, from my perspective, being involved in the media as well, what is so fantastic about these series is the stories, is the characters. The races, the struggles to get onto the grid in the first place, the differing backgrounds from where competitors and teams have come from. So I think it's a really good time in motorsport, at a time when politically you'd think people will be pulling back from internal combustion engine powered motorsport. Far from it. At this level, it's in rude health, and I think will continue to be so for many years to come. Yeah.
And you hit the nail on the head. I think you've only got to look at the caliber of some of the drivers who have gotten involved in things like Enduro KA and the C1 Challenge. You've got touring car drivers, ex-Le Mans drivers. Nick Tandy massively involved in the KAs, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's all about how much fun you can have at the wheel of something. And if it's to some people it's pocket change, to others it's making racing actually a reality rather than a dream. And I think it's the logical next step is seeing more series like the Student Motorsport Challenge. On that note, then, you've been very quiet so far, Leon. I feel like we've left you out with our little ramblings. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your role within the university, and then kind of lead that on to what was it about the Student Motorsport Challenge that you specifically thought was going to benefit your program and your students.
Okay, well, as you introduced me earlier as a head of automotive, so that's my job title. I do get involved with the teaching and get stuck in there with the students to help them get their qualifications in essence. But we wanted to give a little bit more than that. We wanted to bridge out and give them something more exciting, more involving, and give them a way into doing something really different, but but rewarding. As a college, we strive to get the qualifications for the students. That's one of the main goals for the students when they're with us. But we wanted to sort of really use the college, what we call the 3 pillars. So not only is it about qualifications, but it's about getting them out there into employment, giving them the contacts to find their future pathways, and then really work on their character strengths. All about ownership and optimism, self-control. All these different, I'm not going to read them all out, but there are character strengths that we work with. So the idea was we wanted to get a kind of steps into motorsport. So we wanted to do a motorsport qualification because it'll open more doors. So, obviously allow them to be a technician, mechanic in lots of different fields, but also open up the pathways of motorsport or even into university. So we firstly picked a level 3 motorsport qualification. But we didn't want to just do the bare minimum and just have, a car to work on at the college. We wanted to give them the tools to then go into a motorsport series and compete and actually do some real life sort of training, I suppose you'd call it. And that's when we, sort of got talking with JP at Student Motorsport. And it's been, I want to say, we've been on a 5-year journey, but we're at sort of year 4 at the moment. And that's kind of, we started off, we joined you with the mini challenge, and then we've come to Silverstone to Motorsports Days Live, and we've tried to get involved as much as we can. And we feel that, this is the best route for us now is to join the CityCar Cup and the Student Motorsport Challenge and really get involved.
And you mentioned there the importance of being involved in an active sort of racing team who's competing on the weekends. Talk to me a little bit more about what difference mindset that sort of has on the students compared to, as you said, anyone can wheel a car into a workshop and work on it, and essentially you're doing exactly the same things on that than you would be if you were working on a car that's actually going to be raced. I think, how does that change the mindset, do you think, of the students who are actually working on it and give them that more applicable experience?
I think it gives them the confidence. That first builds on their confidence, gets them, working alongside each other in teamwork and that kind of thing. They'll take more ownership if the car is for a reason, so that if it's going to race, they're going to want to make sure that they do the job right so their car wins. So it's going to, it kind of builds in those characters, as I said earlier, of what it is like to be a motorsport technician or engineer. So by doing an actual series and working in the industry will give them that kind of buy-in, I suppose. Also the tutors, they'll want to be there. That they want their students to be successful, and they'll be there for the adventure as well. So I think it will build it. It is building in a real nice sort of college ethos, so we should call it.
And I think, the competitiveness will only get more and more prominent as more and more institutions come on board, hopefully. I think
that's very true.
I'm thinking of the Oxford Cambridge boat race. Maybe in a couple of years it'll be the equivalent in the Student Motorsport Challenge, as universities want to kind of do one over other colleges and universities, which would be,
I've started to see that now, James. To interrupt you, we've started to see that. Obviously, I've been on the sales calls, let's call them, to attract, share information, update these 80 or so colleges that we've been speaking to about this. Without naming any names, but you'll get counties that sit next to each other, or colleges that are east and west, so to speak. And they're doing it, are they? Are well, we want to do it then, kind of thing. And that's my job made far easier now, But interesting, going back to what you were saying about, I wanted to add to the importance for the students to take responsibility, ownership of what they're doing. And that's why we run the whole, from donor car to driver to build to prepping, planning, and so forth, is because it teaches them that whole breadth of skills that they need for the industry. Now, this has all been done. I've been cheating all the way through this process, because it's all been done because I taught motor racing for almost 10 years at college, and I know what tutors need. They need things to deliver, tangible things that are going to get people places and give students a bit of excitement and realism, something that's applicable to the industry. And if they've got that responsibility of dealing with real money, real people's livelihoods, and businesses and brands, well, what better way to do it than for them to build their own racing team? Forget the car, build the racing team and the brand, and hence the marketing involvement of the photography department, the hospitality department. So what Liam was saying is it opens their minds, it opens them to possibilities, and what the industry wants. So coming from JP, who was a race technician, in the UK and Europe and various different series, I've been very fortunate, is that what I saw was, with respect, was many students that came to work on teams where I was, that they weren't quite ready for it. They weren't prepped. So there was very hands in pockets, let's say. And that's a sad thing to see. I don't want to see that anymore. So this really gives them a purpose. And the industry wants to see people that and we always say this, hit the ground running. Now, of course, you and I understand, Leon understands, anyone on this call understands, anybody watching will understand that, excuse me, when you go into a new job, of course, there's a period of adjustment, a period where you need to be, shown how things work. But in motorsport, you need to have a high level of ability to work on your own, think on your feet, act quickly, adapt, and work in a team as well. And I believe, all biased as I am, that the challenge, again, solves all of that. And again, it's not to replace what tutors are doing and Leon's doing. It's to enrich, enhance, as I said, all those E's that I keep coming up with, the enrichment, enhancement, excitement, and all that sort of thing. I just wanted to add that, this has really been built, again, on the back of personal experience, and we can adjust this model according to, what people like Leon think,
Yeah, I was going to actually come to you on that, JP. You've read my mind on, because I wanted to see how it compared to your sort of experience of working with graduate engineers and technicians in the past. And I think you're right. I mean, my background is in IT, and like any industry, it's the age-old problem of bridging that gap between what students are taught from an academic perspective to how they then apply those skills in the real world. And in any industry, there is a gap, because ultimately, there just is. It's just a lot of the time it's impossible to be able to pragmatically replicate the real world scenarios within an academic environment. And I think, as you said, that's the one unique thing about this, is that it's not for show. It's not a pretend competition. And in many ways, although there's certainly an element of institution against institution that goes on here,
that's a healthy camaraderie that we're creating, though. And a couple of things I want to mention is about breaking down barriers, and it's about all of the colleges supporting each other to strengthen the industry and attract more people to motorsport. So this challenge is multifaceted, it's multi-purpose, and before I forget, it's important to mention that what tutors at colleges and universities do is unbelievable. And this is what the podcast is about as well, to raise awareness, but that's for another day, or it will be 2 hours. But what's important to point out is that tutors only have a limited amount of time to deliver a motorsport course, a plumbing course, a construction course, whatever it might be. And that time is forever being chopped up and made smaller for different things that we need to enrich the student experience with. So we've gone from learning motorsport to studying a study program now. And what Leon and other tutors and I had to do was nothing short of a miracle, really, to get students through. the key point is that they have to give students a bite size, a taster of a little bit of everything, and therefore create a spark in one particular interest. So I think these external extracurricular projects that are out there, such as the Student Motorsport Challenge, is perfect for them to take it further. To be the media guy on the challenge, to be the person that looks after the driver, the coach, or to be the one that focuses on mechanics or hospitality, whatever it is. But it's important to add those few extra points to what you're talking about to Leon. Sorry, I've hijacked Leon's question there, but over to you, James.
Yeah, Leon, I mean, so coming back to some of those points, Dan, I mean, we've touched on it a few times, and I guess to address the elephant in the room here, the birth of these sorts of race series over the last sort of half decade has certainly lowered the bar, lowered the sort of the cost of entry when it comes to motorsport. But the adage of there's no such thing as cheap motorsport, I think is still very true. It's not like going to play football in the park or something like that. There is still a cost, a significant cost involvement in going racing, regardless of whether that's a C1 or a CityCar Cup team, all the way up to a Formula One team. Although obviously a vast difference in budget. Although with the budget cap coming in Formula One, who knows? Maybe they'll be poaching C1 staff before long. But coming back to you, Leon, if I may, obviously, being responsible for, for an entire sort of department there within the university or in the college. Sorry, how do you? What was it about the justification for the spend to go into the series that kind of you thought was worth the investment? And I guess, how was that kind of communicated throughout the rest of the institution? Or what were the key kind of drivers that you were able to sort of use for leverage to make sure that you could secure the budget to go ahead and enter the team?
I think it was really down to if you're getting involved with motorsport and doing a motorsport course, you can't really do a course without actually being involved in some kind of form of motorsport. So that was the first kind of step that we took to really promote, that we wanted to be a part of a series of some description. And then we kind of looked at all the different challenges and the different series that we could race in. And really the Student Motorsport Challenge and CityCar Cup was ticked all the boxes and was sort of in more of an affordable kind of reach, really. When we found, as soon as we mentioned that we were going to be racing in the following year, our student numbers went up for the motorsport qualification level 3. So we've doubled our numbers already this year. And I think that is because we're now going to be offering students, firsthand, within a motorsport challenge. So they're actually doing live motorsport rather than
Leon, to interrupt you there, that absolutely delights me because you touched on, and the readers, the listeners might not understand that when I taught motor racing at College of West Anglia a number of years ago, this is when the relationship started, wasn't it? And again, it's about breaking down barriers. Crazily, some people might think us as a college, not too far away from you, invited you along to our college through, with Student Motorsport ethos, and they were supportive of that, to understand how to run motorsport. So that's when that started, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you got involved in the mini challenge racing that we did, and you saw it, and you got a taste of that and thought, we need to do that. You were part of the shows that we did. But what delights me is that, you offering a motorsport course was one thing, but offering a motorsport course that is involved in a good level, albeit grassroots, but I think a professional level of motorsport, and just look what it's done to your numbers. So I was particularly interested to echo what James was saying, was without going into too much detail, why we are allowed to fund this. And we've had a conversation, and we know that because it relates to employability, something that's innovative and something that's going to give students help students become more work ready. So I think that ticks a few boxes with your department, didn't it?
Yeah, so obviously I used my operational plan to actually get the main part of the funding to actually buy a vehicle and buy the equipment needed to race that vehicle. But because of that employability and giving students the steps into into motorsport and giving them the contacts and just being involved, we were able to use a fund called Place 21, which is a match fund, and that's then allowed us to have money to put towards consultancy and kind of help build our motorsport delivery and grow that as well. So it's given us the whole package. So not only can we compete, but we've also got the wraparound support to give us those, I called it earlier, the steps into motorsport. So to allow our college to get involved and
yeah, that's something that we kind of coined, isn't it? Steps to motorsport. We were thinking, well, actually, that's exactly what we've done. And we must, at this stage, I personally and my company thank you massively for being the first to be announced, the first to sign up, the first to commit and show confidence in what we're doing.
So JP, on that note, then, if we great to hear the benefits and what the program is all about. Other than obviously the signing up to the program, being able to race in the series, what are the support from Student Motorsport can a college get as part of their sort of introduction to the series?
A multitude. Again, there's 101 ways that we want to help colleges through the network and whatnot. But with the challenge, the support that they get, as Leon said, is consultancy. So right from day one, we're not saying, you must send us money before we support you. Leon, I'll tell you, from day one, we're on the phone, we're on social media, we're networking with those people to get them to the first step, which might be how to fund this. So through our resources on the site, which they get access to, I'll talk about. But it starts at how do you fund it?
I'll jump in and just while you say about the funding, about we discussed in great length about the budgeting, because it's something that our college had never been involved with before. So the first hurdle was understanding how much it would actually cost, and we came up together with a good spreadsheet, which was great, because I could take it to my finance team and really sell what we needed to have. So that was kind of the first.
But the point on finance was as well that we are one of the support areas. We understand that, of course, colleges in the main are going to finance the entry to the challenge, the series, the build, everything. But the idea is that those students now get on board as soon as that you get committed to the series, to work with their business students, to work amongst themselves to attract funding back into the pot, let's say. Whether it be a donor car and a sponsorship agreement, or whether it be a paid drive, or whether it be parts for the build. But yeah, right from the start, the finance was the first area, wasn't it? So just answering your question, James, the support is how to how to go about the whole project, is how to build a race team, is how to build a car. Now, not all colleges will need the same level of support because they already run motorsport, for example. But that's where the consultancy comes in, and we have to adapt and we have to be fluid with that. But we support each other. We support the colleges to let's say, to sell it to the senior management team, to get their program managers and their other tutors on board and get that idea across. That's stage one. And once they're involved, is to build a race team, is to find a donor car, is to assign duties to people, is to literally order the parts, everything that you need to do to get to the racetrack and back, repair the car if you have to, how to market it, how to promote it, how to attract business to it, and do it all again. How we do that, again, with your question, James, is through the website, is in a big way. So when we're not on the phone or Zoom call to our customers, let's say the colleges and universities and students, we intend to run a series of podcasts like we're doing today to raise awareness of how people have funded it, why they've got involved, what the benefits are to the students or the university or college. Is it to attract more students? Is it to start motorsport like Leon has? What is that? And also, there's a number of digital resources that are becoming available, such as a race car build, how to set a team up, and all of those things that I've talked about today. So that consultancy is not just, words on paper. It's in person. It's on the phone. And one of the really proud things that we piloted, again, we're using West Suffolk as a guinea pig for all this. So we are you actually, is that when you order the parts, we deliver them in person, and we do an activity day with the students. To that's where the value is that we're there with you from day one, aren't we? And we're molding this and building it and changing it according to what you need. JP and the Student Motorsport have come up with this idea of a challenge or a website, but it might not be perfect. So it might not be exactly what you need, but through feedback, mistakes, successes, we're molding it. But yeah, the support comes through the phone conversations, the Zoom calls, the video calls, the in-person parts delivery and shows and events that we're going to run, podcasts such as this. But something that's pained me for months and months and months is the build guide and the other digital resources surrounding the entire modular challenge that we're calling it. Now, just before I forget, the build guide is something that we're particularly proud of, because if we're going to sell an idea, start a challenge, we weren't going to do it without building one of these cars. So we did that during lockdown, took lots of photographs. We've developed a build guide for for finding a donor car, for disassembling it and reassembling it with the parts that you need to, for the spec, for the regulations. Not because these colleges need that, but because the students will need that, so that they can support them with those bills to help avoid some hiccups, to give them a guidance along the way, and crucially again, so they can take the bull by the horns and really take ownership and responsibility of off the tutors, which is something that I also wanted to do, alleviate that pressure. So a long answer there, James, but how do we support?
That's really good.
Yeah, in many ways.
That's really good. And based on that then, Leon, I mean, I'm keen to know of your sort of experience so far, and what the students have how they've adjusted to the program, and what have been their highlights. And I've got two questions and follow up to that. And the first one is, are they more excited about being in the workshop, or are they more excited about getting to the track on a test day or a race weekend? What's been the general conversations going on?
I think it's a new cohort this year at level 3, and I think really it was the initial the parts delivery and the pit stop challenge and just the visit from Student Motorsport to sort of kick it off, and that really did kick it into action. The students are keen now to be cracking on with their vehicle, and they are really looking forward to racing. Piggyback on the back of that, we've also had a student from another area who's currently racing, and he's really keen to be our driver. And
that was going to be my next question. Where's your driver? Who's your driver going to be for the?
Obviously, it's early days. We haven't discussed it fully yet, but he'd heard about the challenge. He'd heard about the what sort of what he'd get, what the challenge would offer him, how it would be, a good way for him to carry on his racing career, but have like a pit team and logistics team and, social media. So all of those different things, all as a package, so that's kind of, fingers crossed that's going to help us, do that. And yeah, the students, like I say, have been really excited by the challenge. They're keen to work on the vehicle. So yeah, the buy-in is certainly there, and that the students are ready. Really, they're raring to go and hopefully soon we can. Sorry, my cat's walking on the table. Sorry about that. But yeah, so
good stuff. And I just quickly on that point, then JP, just to come back to you, because I suppose that might be a question for many institutions. Is obviously the program is very much geared and aimed at car build and car preparation, and obviously racing that car. What are the driver options out there for colleges who maybe aren't fortunate enough to have the next British Formula One world champion potentially in their ranks?
That's changed. That's changed and developed as well. With conversations, the beauty of this is not all colleges can afford to get involved in it, or not all because they're committed to other series, or they can't commit the time to a build. So the options to get involved in the challenge is the preferred option, and I think the best one is to go the whole 9 yards, which is to find the donor vehicle as part of the challenge, is to convert the vehicle, is to find a paid driver, paid sponsors, and to do it treat it like you would a professional entry. If you can't do that for various reasons, there is an option to buy a ready-built car through our partners, Essential Racing, where I built the car during lockdown, so I can do the guides. So there is that option as well. Obviously, the better option is to build the vehicle because of all the extra learning and material there is for the tutors, and the embedding of activities and evidencing of those tutor lessons and learning. Another option is if they can't commit to running their own vehicle, they can, and it's something we're going to be talking about, leading up to Christmas, is just because you can't commit to building or purchasing a ready-built car this year, you still can get involved in the challenge by buddying up or marrying up with an existing driver. And we're going to be putting options out there for that. And another option that we've decided, and the final option that we started to develop, which we haven't publicised yet, it's coming in version 2. I keep talking about version 2, brochure of information and the guide, is that actually they could choose to run an already built vehicle that they don't own. So whether that's on a loan agreement or a rental agreement through our partners, we will get colleges to the track. I wrote something down here. The important thing to remember is that we want to reduce the impacts and the cost of participating in what's perceived by industry as relevant, rewarding, real racing. One of the things I remember was when I got was going for jobs in motorsport early 2000s, was interviewers would often say to me, well, JP, what experience have you got? And I said, well, I worked on the Formula 4 team, or from the college, or I did Formula Student. We did an odd round here and there or whatever. And they'd say, but what real experience have you got in industry? And that was quite sad, because what the colleges did where I studied and what I've done as a college, I think is particularly is valuable. But unfortunately, they need a little bit more. So that's why, we think if we create this championship within an existing series that's getting really good light and attention, it will help to raise the bar for these educators and further showcase the great things that they're doing. One college actually said to me recently on a call was that what they do is ticks their boxes. I think they said that they run in MR2 series. They said what we do is perfectly fine. So, that's completely fine. Come back to them after the summer. And they said we thought about what they said on that call. It still stands what they say, but what better thing to do than to race in a series that's dedicated to educators that are teaching motorsport. Now, there are 30 odd colleges, it peaks and falls as that changes every year, that teach motorsport, and a small handful of universities. We want to introduce this to take that number higher, because we want to attract more colleges to motorsport. and in turn provide more talent to the industry, and in turn strengthen the industry. But yeah, there are various routes to getting involved in this, and we'll invent them as we need to go along to support educators in showcasing motorsport. The final thing I say about that is, I don't think everyone understands that running motorsport teaching motorsport at a college is a lot different. I'm not saying that other courses don't have costs, but I think if you're teaching an automotive motorsport course, there's a lot more cost involved, and I don't think industry perhaps not industry, but I don't think education in itself just understands how much cost and time investment there is to run a motorsport course. So again, access to motorsport, steps to motorsport, the challenge is all about reducing costs, giving tutors a bit more breathing space, attracting more students to colleges, commercial partnerships and everything. And again, that's going off on a slight tangent there, but it's all relevant. We're going to make it accessible for colleges to get drivers. If they can't afford to build a car and do a full entry, we'll come up with all sorts of weird and wonderful ways they can get involved.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Perfect. One more question for me, which I'm gonna direct back at you, Andy, as well, just from your experiences in the kind of the media and sort of in that side of things. So, I mean, one of the things we've been talking about throughout tonight has been, you know, it is about building that race team, and JP just touched on it then. It is about the whole picture and everything else that goes into a race team that I think many people, you know, many people don't really sort of tend to factor these things in. You know, you're talking about hospitality, for example, sponsorship, potentially media, how to build a team around that, public relations, things like that. You know, again, I guess from your experience of being on the other side of the fence, you know, how important are these things for anyone as who's part of a racing team to kind of to develop these skills, as well as the kind of the core skills that they have to do their job, be that an engineer or a mechanic or a driver or whatever?
Well, massively important. In fact, I would go so far as to say it's critical. I mean, motorsport, in the professional sense, is either somebody's hobby or it's part of somebody's marketing budget. Either way, somebody has got to pay for it. So if you want to work in motorsport or you want to run a team, you've got to find somebody who wants to come along and spend a not inconsiderable amount of money to either race his car in your team or race your car. So learning those skills, I believe, is critical.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would imagine that most of the students that are going to be attracted to the courses as it currently stands are going to be of a more mechanical persuasion. I think it will be interesting to see how colleges take the initiative of the Student Motorsport Challenge and use that to build on that to strengthen what they're doing in courses connected with media, public relations, marketing, finance, logistics, hospitality. There's probably not a department within a college that couldn't have some kind of constructive involvement with a program like that. Whether they're interested in cars or not is kind of irrelevant. It's a mini business that needs funds coming in to take that product, that car, to a circuit and race it. So I should be very interested to see how that develops. I mean, what we hope to do at Student Motorsport is, certainly on the media side, is support teams. I've been involved in motorsport to various degrees for many, many years. And I know, at least I hope I know, what works from a team's media perspective and what doesn't. So hopefully what we can bring is some guidance and support to say, okay, what do you think your media strategy should be? How are you going to plan for it, and how are you going to execute it? And what would your objectives for that strategy be? Is it just to educate your local community, whether it be the college or the wider community around the college as to what you're doing? Or is it to act as a billboard, an advertisement to attract people, you know, a paid driver, for instance, to approach you to say, can I drive your car? So I think there's there's a lot to do on that, I think. And I think there's probably a lot that most students looking at motorsport probably, and you could forgive them for not, don't really understand.
Yeah.
Motorsport is a business like any other.
Yeah.
It needs money to make it work.
And that's a great point. I mean, I can resonate a lot with when I graduated as a software developer. I started working, and within a week of being in a real business with a real business that goes on, there's all these different departments and things that you have to work with that you've just got no idea how to deal with or whatever, because you don't, even when you kind of do a bit of you do these projects in university or whatever, you're still not exposed to that business and everything else that goes on around it. And I think it just plays back into the benefit of being involved in a real race team. It's well, who's doing the marketing for this, who's loading the wagon up, who's sorting all this out, who's doing that, who's going to be on the pit wall, who's going to be doing this. And all of a sudden your specialty area of being the chief mechanic or the number 2 mechanic or whatever it is, and the job that you've got to do becomes one piece of the bigger puzzle. And I think the broader skill set that we can give to everyone, we're not saying that as a mechanic you need to become a marketeer, but we are saying that you need to understand and appreciate the job that person has to do and why it benefits the team just as much as you tightening that wheel nut up to a certain amount.
I remember working in a race team many years ago, and you almost got the impression that the going to the circuit and racing the car was the icing on the cake, was the reward, if you like, for all the hours of work that you did back in the factory to get that car ready and to prepare everything around it to make that weekend work. Teams are going to have to ask themselves, what are you doing about lunch on Saturday? As you say, who's going to pack the trunk? Who's checked you've got enough spares? All those sort of simple things that somebody's got to do it, because if you get to the circuit and discover you haven't got a spare something, you've got a real problem. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how those disciplines, and it can't fall on the course tutor, otherwise they've got a massive job. Some of that has got to be delegated.
And as somebody who started motor racing at the age of, what am I now, 36, and getting to the track the first weekend and realizing half the stuff doesn't just magically turn up in the garage, you have to actually bring it with you. I can very much resonate with it. Fantastic. In the interest of time, gents, we'll draw a close there. Leon, where can people find out about West Suffolk College and the courses and things that you guys offer? Okay, so visit West Suffolk College. Put it in your Google search engine and you'll find West Suffolk College, and you'll be able to see all of our different courses that we run within automotive and motorsport, or any other courses. Have a look, see what we have to offer. If you want to follow our sort of Facebook channel, it's WSC Motorsport Engineering. So do pop along and give us a like. Other social media platforms are used from the college. So again, look on West Suffolk College on Instagram, and you'll see some pictures and things on there as well. And obviously, we'll see you at the top of the grid when the season starts next year, of course. You will indeed. JP, actually, JP, hold that thought. I'll come to you last because I know you'll just talk on it otherwise anyway. Andy, same for you. Where can we find out about yourself and what you've been up to? enduranceandgt.co.uk is my website, and you can follow me on social media, Endurance and GT on Instagram and on Facebook. Andy Lloyd also on Facebook as well. Fantastic, thank you. And JP, just as a closing thought then, what does this mean, Student Motorsport? What does this mean to you, seeing it all come together, and where can people go to find out more information on the challenge and indeed Student Motorsport in general? Yeah, I run deep with passion for motorsport and education. I worked in education for a number of years and was surrounded by certain barriers and red tape, which are no complaints, as I've said, time being one of them. So to be able to serve the industry and education from this side of the fence, and to see people take interest in it, is a massive win for me. For you to create a product, from nothing,
or rather off the back of your, an idea of your own experience. And for a college to put the hand in the pockets, to come up with it, an agreement to take part in it is so rewarding. So I could talk about it all day long. People want to know more about us and and the challenge and the website, you can just go to studentmotorsport.com, and all the links are there for the various different things that we do, including the challenge. We're all over social media such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and we've just started a new YouTube channel. For all of those, you can just type in Student Motorsport and you'll find us. The YouTube link will be changed in the coming weeks as we develop a platform there. And again, I just want to take the opportunity to not just thank you guys, I want to thank Leon and West Suffolk College for their investment in time, trust, interest in us in this, and for being the first to sign up. That's going to hopefully carry on. P1 to build a car, P1's on the track, and the competition starts. I want to also thank Andy Lloyd, obviously from Endurance and GT, that serves us as the press and media support that we get. It's helped us for a number of years. It's suffered me for a number of years. I also want to thank the people that help us at Student Motorsport, Patrick, the operations director, and yourself, James, for your support and endurance with this. And in closing, thank the BRSCC for entrusting us to amalgamate an educational championship within theirs, and of course the Nankang CityCar Cup for their support. The BRSCC, as I said, Essential Racing, which has been a really big part of this, where we've been able to take over their workshop, build cars, take them to tracks for test days, run them in a race, really test everything this year. They've supported us getting cars to colleges, delivering parts and so forth. So, of course, Essential Racing provides the parts of the championship. And just generally, all of the support that we've had for a number of years, as this is the first time we've really been on camera, to thank everyone that's really believed in Student Motorsport, and in particular for this podcast, the challenge. There's a lot to go, there's a lot to come, there's a lot to do, but we're hopefully going to illustrate the great things they're doing. So thank you to everyone.
See, that's why I let JP go last. Thank you, JP. Thank you, Andy, and a very, 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 very special thank you to Leon for joining us tonight. Wish you all the best for the season. And from our perspective, you'll hear from us soon. This is going to be the first of many podcasts and bite-sized chunks that we'll no doubt put on YouTube and so on. But until next time, that'll do it from us. Thank you.